Good morning,
Hello,
chat.
chat.
Good morning, chat.
Oh, fuck. I'm way too loud. Hold on. I gotta turn myself down. There we go. All right, we survived. I gotta kill my Telegram alerts here. Sorry, anime Joshi figurines. I'll chat with you later, brother. I would say how's everyone doing in chat today, but it's currently just me and Tony and like one person. So if that one person is there and you want to chat, how are you doing this morning? And I hope it's well. We are doing well. We got some tea. Oh, it's Omni. Perfect. What's up, brother? Good morning, homie.
We got to play some more Abiotic here soon.
Yeah, we're gonna do Elden Ring tomorrow, right, Tony?
Can we actually play Elden Ring tomorrow? That might be a good thing to.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, check that out, and I'll yap at Omni real quick. So, Omni, we don't have Christina today. She's not feeling well, so she's taking a break from stream, which is cool. It's totally okay. We had a plan to get her cottage over onto her machine because like Tony was doing all the work basically and like kind of showing her stuff. But she had issues with her machine and isn't feeling well. So we're a little loose today. We have sort of like a hard pivot a little bit last minute, but we'll be all right. We're going to take a look
We're
at...
not going to be able to play until 4 p.m. tomorrow.
Oh shit. So like after
right
stream?
at the end of the stream. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's do Abiotic tomorrow and we'll just talk about Elden Ring hype and shit like that.
Or, worst case, we can do Elden Ring prep. So,
oh, totally. Yeah, that would be good too. That's probably a good idea.
We want to play more Abiotic, so that sounds good to me. I'm really enjoying that game, and I want to keep playing it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I feel like it'd be a good idea because we played through the weekend a little bit. Or no, I didn't play in the weekend. You guys played in the weekend. But yeah, it's probably time for me to get back in there and like could check some shit out. So
yeah, I get the feeling that we're kind of right on the cusp of like the power curve starting to go a little bit, and it getting a little more interesting and fun. So
I feel like that's what Photon was saying last week. He was like, you guys are almost at the point where like the game just opens up and becomes freeform. We've got Taco Bell ads going on now.
So it's like, I think that's kind of why he made that statement, because we were right at power cells, and it seems like that is the way that you need to kind of progress forward after that is to find power cells. So
okay.
Yeah.
That's me. I'm just resubbing with my Prime so that I don't get these stupid Taco Bell ads. 1 second.
Oh, okay.
Cool. We did it. I'm gonna share my 4-month subiversary.
Right.
Hit me. Okay. Yeah, I think that would be cool. That'd be a good idea. Of course, there's like some crazy guns you get at that point and like cool shit to shoot.
I've been
I think that would be cool.
I think this is maybe an interesting question to ask you, which is like, why is it so good? Do you think?
What?
And
Abiotic factor?
Yeah, and like, what makes it as compelling as it is? I can't necessarily put my finger on one particular thing, to be honest.
I think that overall, it's not necessarily innovating on the survival crafting thing as much, or like much beyond the remix of making it interior, and it's like Half-Life 1, which is cool. It's like known successful good things. So as weird as this is, because we talk a lot about how AAA devs or AAA studios don't typically do like big risky things, they do safe things. I would say this is a case where an indie has done a very safe thing, and the safe bet is paying off. They just highly polished the safe bet. That's typically the domain of AAAs. That's where they spend all their effort, is like, we're going to replicate this recipe for success, because risk means that our shareholders get angry and we might just lose our asses, and they don't want to do that. So I think it's just a highly polished, not necessarily aesthetically, but overall, like the shooter experience is really good. The fact that even though it's early access, there's so much content already is huge. I think that matters a lot.
And I think to your point, just like them really leaning into the like, you're pretty much stuck in Black Mesa type thing, really lens to it, I kind of go back and forth on like, well, could you just apply the same formula to being stuck in a mall or being stuck in a city or, you know, being stuck in an office building or something? And I guess it would probably just end up being a lot more kind of generic. And
I think you could, honestly. I think
you probably could, but I've just kind of felt like that particular kind of Half-Life 1 setting that they've leaned into really benefits the whole thing, I guess.
I will also say that's probably, hey Anna, thanks for coming. Oh, thank you so much for the resub.
Oh, thanks, Anna.
You're awesome as always, and your support is wonderful. So thank you so much. I was just commenting how we weren't sure because we're not like professional streamers, and we haven't been getting subs for a super long time, only about like 2 to 3 months or something like that. But we have our little sub tracker guy like down here, and we weren't sure if it showed like primes and if it showed gifted and all that. And I guarantee that it doesn't show the gifteds now, because we were almost at 60 and we lost 40 of our subs that were probably just gifted, you know, through a bunch of different people over the last month. So anyway, that's the answer to that. That does not mean anything. It does not mean like you need to, you know, sub or do anything else, but just that your resub is greatly appreciated, because we had a huge drop. You know, we were at like almost 60. Now we're down at like 21. So anyway, it still helps. Thank you so much. We were talking about abiotic factor. No, seriously, I mean it. Seriously, no pressure. Please. Like, you're very helpful. We're grateful for everything that you give us, and you're fantastic. So zero pressure, please. We were talking about abiotic factor and like what we think makes it good. And I think I was about to say, Tony, I think one of the biggest lifts that is working. Hey, what's up, Carolyn and Owen Brown on YouTube? How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. We don't typically get a lot of YouTube chatters, so it's fantastic that you're here. This is probably the first time in 6 months I've seen a YouTube chat pop through, so hope you enjoy the stream. I think I'm going to get this thought out. I think the biggest lift for abiotic factor in making it play really well for us, or like why we like it, is that nostalgia. Nostalgia is a really crazy psychological tool to leverage, and it works really, really well. The reason I say it's crazy is because, you know, we've talked about games as a service. That is one of the things that a game as a service attempts to establish, is a sense of nostalgia. So for instance, if you played like World of Warcraft for 10 years, there is an entire lane of content that could be developed for you that makes you go, oh, I remember this. And you spend all of the money you've spent over that 10 years immediately again.
You mean like when you're Blizzard and you roll back your code base to the beginning and then package it and sell the game again?
I mean, yeah, I was trying to be less explicit than WoW Classic, but yeah, literally WoW Classic. And you bet your ass it worked on me. I played the shit
we
out of
both
WoW
played
Classic.
it. Like, it was fun.
I fucking loved it.
It was cool.
It was amazing. I was like, the glory days. Reminds me of college when I did nothing. Anyway, yeah. So I think that's a big part of the lift for abiotic factor, which is the aesthetic is highly leveraging nostalgia, especially for people like us. Zoomers are weird as fuck. So my assumption is that if Zoomers like it, it's because it looks jank as you know, looks old and janky, and they're like, oh, it's so cool and quirky. Like,
no offense, Zoomers.
I mean, you guys are weird as fuck. I have plenty of Zoomer homies, but you guys are definitely weird. Don't get me wrong, I'm weird too. Every human is strange and different. You guys are just doing it in a way that I'm not familiar with, and I'm getting used to now. So you guys are great still. I like Zoomers. I think the other reason it does so well is that combat actually feels good for the most part. And that's a thing that like loses me, but they didn't like reinvent anything. They were just like, this is Half-Life combat. And I'm like, oh yeah, this feels good. You know, like that just works really well. Yeah. I think it's really cool to build a base inside of a building. That's really neat.
It is like from kind of that, like, well, what if you were trapped in a big science lab and you had to survive for multiple days? Like, what would you do? Like, it does kind of play out that way to some extent, which is really interesting. And yeah, I don't know. It makes me want to like kind of try to make a survival game in like a weird setting like that, because I think it's really compelling not that we're going to do that right away, but it just, you could do a lot of really cool stuff with it, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been super fun. So we're probably going to play that a little bit tomorrow. If not, we'll be playing it off stream. So again, chat, if you guys have it, we already know Omni does. We got, we switched it so that it's not just hosted by me anymore. It is hosted by, I don't even know if it's like hosted by anyone. It's just kind of like out in the cloud.
Well,
and
it's like it's a dedicated server that Omni sets
Yeah,
up.
Omni set up a dedicated server. There are things that occur at like different times of day. And Tony, I think bot is RIP.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
All good, no worries. As soon as anyone in chat, as soon as Tony fixes the bot, it'll drop a Discord link. So if you want to keep in touch with us, come hang out with our community, play Abiotic Factor with us, request that we build things on stream or add functionality to our games or things that we've built, please join the Discord. That's going to be like probably one of the best ways to do it because we're only live 4 hours a week. What was I rambling about? Oh, yeah. So tomorrow we're going to probably take a look at, some Elden Ring stuff because new expansion's coming out. We won't be able to play it until after 4 hour time, which is when the stream ends. But yeah, we're gonna be up in that. Hey, thank you, Anna. Yeah, we got bot going. He's sweeping. Oh, that's Anna's sweep emojis. Driggs, nice, cool. So yeah, best way to join us there, is through the Discord. We hang out in that Discord usually after stream on evenings, when we're all gaming together. That's where we'll go hang out. So
yep.
Please
go on there and we work on our projects and stuff like that too. So
totally. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, is that like a Destiny sweeper bot emote, Anna? If it's not, that's totally fine. It always makes me think of that. Okay, cool. Nice. I like them sweepy boys. What else we got? You want to like pull up Coin Pusher? I can keep yapping while you're
I got
potentially looking at that. Okay, so we talked a little bit this morning about what to do with the Coin Pusher, or like what to take a look at. Coin Pusher's kind of in a weird state, so Tony is probably gonna have to fix a few things to get it reintegrated with Twitch, make sure that it's all working correctly. So we'll just have this sucker up here, and we can chat about some things. So Tony and I were talking a little bit about this, and since we were talking about nostalgia, I think it's probably a good idea to bring it up because it might be an interesting topic of conversation. I personally am a big fan of the Mass Effect franchise, and it meant a lot to me, and I really enjoyed it, despite its ups and downs and problems. But what I think is really interesting is that knowing Tony and how into sci-fi Tony is, Tony's got some opinions that differ from what I just said on Mass Effect. So you want to tell chat how you feel about it?
It's more just I'd never played it, and I don't have the nostalgia for it, so I don't get it, admittedly. And the idea of trying to play it now just doesn't really attract me, I guess. It seems like it's going to be just a ton of, it's a BioWare game. It's going to have a lot of dialogue and cutscenes, and there's going to be like 2 or 3 hours of like intro, tutorial, expose. I've played a little bit of it enough to know like there's like really terrible and difficult vehicle sections and like stuff like that I know like nobody really likes. And I do know that there is like a remastered version. I know there's a remastered version that came out on Game Pass a while back that has like all 3 in it, and I believe that they actually fixed some of those issues. And so I was telling Vince, I have tried to play Mass Effect 1 back in the day on Xbox 360 a couple times. Like I think my roommate in college had it, so I would like attempt to play it and then just kind of bounced off. I did download that remastered version when it came out and kind of like again attempted to play it, and I think I got through like an hour or 2 and then just kind of found it boring and never picked it back up again. And so yeah, that's kind of where I've ended up on it.
Yeah, I feel that. The Mako was not good. I played a ton. So I'm with Anna. I played since ME1. As weird as it is, I actually really enjoyed the Mako. Maybe because I don't know. I didn't hate it all that much in the first one. And like, I'm the weirdo who is like, I kind of like the Mako gameplay. It was very strange choice because it didn't really add anything to the game at all. It was super weird because it didn't play like any of the rest of the game. It had nothing to do with the narrative. Pretty much everything you discovered with the Mako was just rando side content that was super shallow, or you were just farming resources for progression that didn't really matter. Yeah, it's like so weird. And notoriously, the controls for the Mako were just bad. It didn't feel good to play. What I think is interesting about what you said, Tony, is that, and you touched on a little bit now, but you said it earlier as we've had this conversation before a little bit. You were saying that the 3 hours of tutorial intro cinematic type of a thing where you're not really playing a game doesn't work for you in the couched in the Mass Effect game. However, I want to throw this out there. I know that you can do that with Kojima games. So why, what's the difference there? Is it just the way he presents it, or is it yeah, I don't know. I'm super curious about that because I know you really like Kojima games and you can abide it there.
Yeah, and I mean, I at the same time will avoid a lot of games just for that same reason. And I guess something like Death Stranding, which I did revisit kind of recently, was more just kind of like seeing the Death Stranding 2 trailer, knowing that I did originally enjoy Death Stranding when I did play it, kind of wanting to try to get through the whole thing because everybody speaks so highly of it. And I ultimately, got a little bit farther in that game than I had before, but it kind of ended up being something where I don't know. I ended up not getting all the way through it either, but it wasn't really for that reason. It was just the gameplay loop in Death Stranding, in my opinion, gets a little repetitive after you play it for 20 hours, and then you got to come back.
It does.
Later, so
it totally does.
But yeah, so I don't really know, and I think admittedly I think Death Stranding, in terms of that side of things and just the overall presentation and the fact that it's a lot more modern, is just a lot more well made than Mass Effect with the goofy facial animations and
yes,
weird kind of character archetypes and stuff like that. So I don't know.
So my assumption was going to be this. I was going to try to lead you there a little bit, but since you're like, I thought about it, I'm not really sure. My assumption is that Kojima has a very good understanding of cinema and a very strong eye for how to compose shots and tell a story through that medium of cinema. And I think if you stand up a cutscene or a cinematic in Mass Effect and put it next to any of the Kojima cinematics that he's made, especially the contemporary ones with modern Metal Gears that are, full movie quality, anything in Death Stranding, the difference is very clear in the level of quality and competency for storytelling through that medium, I think. So my assumption is the reason why you can abide it in a Kojima game is because he executed it so well. And
Kojima's entire games are these beautiful works of art, top to bottom. And I'll play a Kojima game just to kind of bask in the game design of it all and how it all kind of came together. And it's I don't know, I'm not getting that from Mass Effect. Mass Effect is a video game. It plays like a video game. It's good,
I would say it's a video game that plays like a movie.
Mass Effect,
yeah, in that
I mean
Kojima games are movies that play like video games.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that
cool.
for sure. And he's talked about so many times how he just wanted to be a director. When he got into games and stuff, and you can tell he's just more and more kind of just heading that direction longer term.
I'm here for it. Didn't he suggest he's making a movie, or he outright said he's making a movie?
I think he said he's making a movie, and I mean he's blurring the line between the two, and kind of always has.
Yes.
I mean, what a Metal Gear Solid 4 had 8 hours of cutscenes in it or something like that. It's that's longer than a movie.
Is 4 Sons of Liberty or Phantom Pain?
Phantom Pain. No.
Okay.
Or is Sons of Liberty. 5 is Phantom Pain.
5 is the only one I've ever played, which is really weird. I mean, I played
5 is the one I've played the most.
Yes, totally. Same.
4. Yeah.
Or I guess you could say Revengeance. Revengeance was actually like my first Metal Gear game, which is super fucking weird because it's not really a Metal Gear game. It's like in the universe, but it's like Devil May Cry or Ninja Gaiden. I loved Revengeance. It's such a good game. Just from like the commentary on capitalism and like the United States, and I can't even remember the dude's name, but you fight like a senator or something like that.
Like a big like mech thing.
Yeah, and he's got like bald eagles, and he's like a part robot and cyborg and shit. It's so good. And he like kicks, he attempts to kick Raiden's ass with the power of freedom. Spoilers. Raiden wins because you play as Raiden. And Raiden's just a cool ass fucking character. He's got like those little like, sprinty feet and shit, and he's got like the blade feet. He's got like that type of stuff, I think. Yep. His bottom jaw is just made of metal. Like his teeth are just metal. He's got a katana that can like cut through atoms or like cut molecular bonds in half or some shit like that. It's just really cool. It's just super neat. Carolyn and Owen on YouTube, if you haven't played Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, it's a super good game. I also have an idea of who you are. I might know you. You don't have to confirm whether or not I do. I'm pretty sure I do. So if you want to chat and, I can recommend some games like that for you, depending on whatever systems you have, consoles or, I feel like you might have said you had an Xbox, and I don't know. Either way, come chat at me if you want to. Actually, I might have some games you could borrow, honestly. So holler. I just looked over and I'm like, oh yeah, I've got like Xbox 360, Xbox One, all kinds of shit over here on my bookshelf. So, yeah, that's interesting. It's really, I know you're from the Blue House. I put it together. That's really interesting thinking about like what cinematics or like video games that play like movies and like why it works and why it doesn't. That's okay, Anna. No, it's totally okay. Kojima is a very divisive auteur, I would say. And while I loved Death Stranding, and I thought it was a very beautiful and brave take at a video game, there are a lot of people who are like, this game is shit. Like, this is a trash game. Why would you buy this? Walking simulator made by AAA developer. This is garbage. And I'm like, well, they just don't get it, or it's not for them, right? Like, that's probably the connoisseur's way to talk down to someone who's like, oh, you just don't get it. It could literally just be not for them. I'm a person with like a really broad taste in a lot of things, so like I enjoy Alex Garland films, which I also see as like somewhat high-end cinema, just because Alex Garland does things that no other filmmakers really do. Scorsese also makes some really good films. I'm not that into directors. I couldn't tell you which directors I really like or anything like that. But the point that I'm trying to make is I like all that shit, but I also like Michael Bay movies. And Michael Bay movies are objectively ass. Like, they're bad. They're not good, but they're really fun. Like, Bad Boys 1 and 2 was great. The first Transformers, like the first 2 Transformers movies, or 3, whichever it is, maybe it's the first 2, really good. I enjoyed the shit out of them. I thought they were amazing. So, yeah, and Anna, I felt the same way, and really what made me love Kojima was playing Phantom Pain. When I played Metal Gear 5, or maybe it was Revengeance. I think it was when I played one of the two, just like opened my eyes and I was like, this dude is wild. Like, I want to see more crazy. Art that he makes.
100%. Yeah.
What were you saying, Tony?
Phantom Pain is crazy.
Yeah.
And it's something that admittedly I've actually kind of tried to replicate a bit with the visual style of the Coin Pusher, because that was like, this was coming together while I was playing Death Stranding, and I always felt the same way about Phantom Pain, but there's this look to Kojima games that no other game has, and I honestly couldn't put my finger on exactly what him and his people do, but just it's everything from like the post-processing on the camera to the styling of the UI and the sound and the input, and just like they all have a very specific feel that is very different from any other game. And the way that the cameras look, they look very much like real life, but they have this like very hypersaturated, kind of like there's a lot of like chromatic aberration and stuff like that you kind of see on the edges here with this a little bit. And yeah, it's just one of those things that I've always been extremely interested in and like kind of trying to replicate and figure out how they do it. And so it's just funny that we have this up right now, because this is the one where I kind of I found a YouTube video that was called like Death Stranding camera post process in Unreal, and I kind of borrowed some of the ideas there for this. So
hell yeah, that's awesome.
It's interesting. It was always interesting to me too, because if you guys don't know the history of Kojima and Metal Gear and Death Stranding and all of that, he used to work for Konami since the 80s or something like that. And he made all of the earliest Metal Gear games all the way up to Metal Gear 5, except for Metal Gear Survive, which did not go very well. But he broke up with Konami at one point at the end, or they fired him or something like that. It was a lot of drama. And then he went and he formed his own studio, which made Death Stranding, and has been extremely successful, probably more so than he ever was at Konami. And he has full creative control and all of that. But the whole point of what I'm saying here is that when he was at Konami, they developed a game engine, I believe it's called like the Snow Fox engine. And that's what Metal Gear Solid 4 and 5 were built on. And it has that very distinct Kojima look to it that I'm talking about. Metal Gear 5 to this day, it's like a 10-year-old game or something. It looks amazing. It is a beautiful
You make me want to play it again, dude.
I know, right? But anyways, then he comes out with Death Stranding quite a while after Metal Gear 5. He has an entirely new studio. It's got to be mostly a new dev team, although I imagine a lot of them came with him from Konami. But they built a new engine. It's called the Decima engine from scratch. And it looks, in my opinion, very, very similar to Metal Gear Solid 5.
That's awesome.
Like that same quality to it that I always admired in his games and stuff like that. And so there's some magic either within Kojima himself, or he has like a team of people that he's worked with very closely for a long time to kind of curate and develop this style. But I was just blown away by the fact that they just like immediately pulled it off again. It's crazy.
So I'll expand on that a little bit. But also, Anna, while I'm expounding on this, I'm just super curious. You said you didn't like him before Death Stranding. What do you think, like, if you can, or if you want to, like, tell us a little bit about what you don't like about Kojima? Because I'm really curious about this too. I'm not going to argue with you or anything like that. I want to understand.
I'm going to step away for 1 second too while you do that.
Yeah, no worries. So my understanding is that Kojima he basically had like the longest leash possible of any creative at Konami. And Konami was a Japanese company. They have these very strict rules about how and when they spend money. Things have to be approved of like through a hierarchy and all this. So they already had a weird relationship with Kojima. Oh, what do you mean by that? And go ahead, like, please tell me more. And it's totally okay. I don't understand what you mean about the women problem. Oh, like hypersexualization or something like that is my assumption, because they're like, I'm thinking of Quiet from 5. She's in like a body stocking and a bikini. Okay, I got you. I can understand. I see that, but I don't know that, like, what I thought was interesting, like, I didn't see Quiet as hypersexualized, even though she was basically naked the entire time. And the reason I didn't was because there was this like, the actress he chose, Stephanie Houghton, has a very like youthful, soft face. Quiet is called Quiet. She's basically like, nude and vulnerable, right? Like that when you're nude, as humans, we feel a sense of vulnerability. We're in extra danger. The point that I'm making about all this is she's like the nastiest sniper. She just like murks everybody. She's super like deadly and violent, and like there's this one point where she's covered head to toe in blood, and you can just basically make her look like that all the time. And she's just like walking around like bloodbathed, and it's pretty cool. So I'm not necessarily trying to defend his creative decision, because I understand why it's problematic. I do get that. I think what I'm saying is that I understand how he got to that point, because he's trying to make Quiet, this vulnerable thing. There's this big duality in that character where she's both of these things at the same time, right? She's like vulnerable, demure, soft spoken. Name's literally Quiet. She doesn't fucking say anything. Yeah, she's like that type of a character, but she's also like ultra violent super murderer. And I think that's like in her backstory, she is crazy violent. Like she just be killing motherfuckers all the time, like for no reason, just murdering the shit out of people. So Snake, rescuing her and whatnot, basically he helps turn her around so she's like not as psychotic anymore, which I thought was really cool. So on its face, if you just look at it, you're like, oh, super cute Swedish model girl in a bikini and body stocking the entire game. This guy's sexist, or he's like misogynist or objectifying women. It just a lot of all that stuff on its face. Absolutely. I can see how you can draw that conclusion. But as you like look into it a little bit, it starts to make sense. That's the only one that I can speak to. I know that there are a lot more, like wasn't Laughing Octopus pretty sexualized in was that 4, Tony?
I don't know if I got to that part in 4, but I know in 3 there are quite a few fairly racy scenes between him and that blonde girl.
Oh yeah, totally. So anyway,
I know they're remaking 3 right now, which I have not personally ever played, but is supposed to be one of the more highly regarded ones from what I know.
Oh, I totally remember the Miranda butt angle.
Yeah.
How about like, I guess, okay, I'm going to be a little controversial potentially. I would say, while I understand why you don't like it, Anna, I like it. It's for me. Like, butt angle's great. Cool. Thanks. But also, like, I'm not going to sit here and like goon over it. I'm just going to be like, oh, nice. Some fake cheeks, right? Like, it's whatever. So, but I very much understand, like, I was raised by a single mom. I understand how we don't live in a world that is equal and fair. And like, yeah, it's really fucking hard to be a woman just everywhere as a human. So I get that. Especially when you're hypersexualized and all that. And like, you can't just fucking exist, Like, I know I can't relate. I will never understand directly because I don't share the experience. But I understand that women really don't feel safe. Like, it's not necessarily an option for women to just like take a walk in the evening pretty much anywhere without being like, cool, I might get like kidnapped, or some crazy shit happens to me. I could also feel the same way and be like choosy about where I go, but I don't have the same risks. I don't have the same fears, so it's not the same for me. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was trying to say. I was trying to, without this being such like a dangerous topic of conversation, I was trying to say like different people have different tastes, whatever, and it's totally cool. And I would get why, like, I would just say if you can, and you haven't already given Kojima's games a chance, you should give them a shot. Death Stranding is really, really, really cool. It's just a different kind of video game experience, but it's definitely one of my favorite games. I thought it was amazing. And just the social commentary was really cool too. Just how we are as people, who we are, how we relate to each other, what connection means between two humans. It's really neat. I think I like Alex Garland in the same way because a lot of his movies are similar in message. It deals with humanity and the human condition, and I find all that shit super fascinating. Yeah, exactly. I know what you mean. It's in your face all the time, and it's not for you. You're like, cool. Like, I would feel the same way if it were just beefcake dudes like shredded all the time, like glistening in oil with like lens flares off them. I'd be like, all right, that's not a scene I'm enjoying as much. You know what I mean? But you might be like, hell yeah. Oh, what's up, Boom? Yo, cat's in chat. Spaghetti. Yeah, Tony cooking here. He cooking spaghetti. No, he broke Coin Pusher doing some revisions to it, so he's unbreaking it and making it happy again. So Maneater tomorrow, says Carolyn and Owen. Let me look it up real quick. Is it Steam? I'm gonna just check Steam real quick. Carolyn and Owen, what we're gonna do is actually play Elden Ring because Elden Ring comes out tomorrow. The expansion. We're big fans of FromSoft games. And then we'll probably, excuse me, chat. We'll probably do some abiotic factor as well, which is really cool. But if you have Discord and you can join our Discord, Carolyn and Owen, that would be cool, because then you could make that suggestion in there and we've got it logged, because like this chat just vanishes. Like we don't see it anymore after the stream. So any suggestions you make there will get lost. If you don't use Discord, totally fine. No pressure there. And feel free to just remind me. You know, you can be like, hey, have you tried this? Have you checked it out? So I'm going to go look it up right now. You could beat it in like 2 streams. Okay. Oh, is it a shark game?
I think it's a shark game. Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of neat. Discord you can use on phone, computer, whatever. I'm assuming that you're probably watching on your phone. We could send you a link or something like that if you want, to the app. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter either way. I could help you out with it, you know, later today if you want. Man-Eater looks pretty funny, actually. I'm kind of into this. I feel like I've heard about this game like from back in the day. Tripwire from 2021. Oh, Sharks Battle? Bro. Okay. It's got shark battling. Got some twirly moves. Oh, Jaws hit him with the tail whip. Got rid of the explosive barrel. Yeah, this Jaws ain't chewing on explosive barrels. All right, cool. Very interesting.
Hey, Boom, we were watching your stream the other day, and it looked like you were trying to debug something on your VTuber or something like that, and your chat was just like spamming every one of your interactions to the point that it seemed like you just like could not accomplish anything. It was kind of comical to watch, but it looked very frustrating.
It was really funny to me because I'm like, Boom is trying to fix their shit, and then you just got in the back of the cop car and sat down, and I was like,
like working, and Vince is like, you have to watch this. Like, it doesn't seem like she can do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Just surrender entirely.
Oh my
Fuck
gosh.
it. Well, they're gonna hit me with the chungus and the what was it, homing test and white van and all that just repeatedly, and you're like,
Vince is like, why did Boom put themselves through this? Like,
so
I
funny.
don't know, for the memes, I guess. Gotta give chat what they want.
Mm-hmm. Chat, you monsters, ruin everyone's fun. I'm kidding. You guys are great. Great evil monsters. So yeah. So Mass Effect, I think. Honestly, Tony, I would go back and say like the first Mass Effect is probably not really worth playing. I don't think it aged very well, and I think it kind of left a lot to be desired. If you just get a story recap on YouTube, you're probably good to go. And then the decisions, like the big decision tree that carries on through the trilogy, the first one only had like 2 or 3 decisions that mattered. So you can choose, you can say like, this is what my dude looks like. He made these choices, and you can start with 2. 2 is just a much better experience overall. The cut scenes are better. It's a lot more based on that. 3, what's really weird is in 3, they went for like, this is a combat game, and it's not. That's not why anyone played the game. I liked the combat updates because that's the type of stuff that I like, but
yeah.
I don't know. I would say if you do, you could also just look up like a whole story recap and then kind of get it and be like, oh, that was neat. Because it is really, really cool stuff.
I have heard, the story is amazing. And
yeah.
So
especially as like an Expanse and sci-fi fan, I think you would really, really enjoy it. It's really cool stuff.
And what is the gameplay like? Third-person shooter?
Yeah. Third-person cover shooter in 3, which is weird. So kind of like Gears.
Is it like Knights of the Old Republic where it's like real-time turn-based?
No, it is all real-time.
Okay. Interesting.
I think. In 3. Oh, you know what? No. I think it is like Knights of the Old Republic. Because I remember when you went into like biotic powers, like your magic psychic shit, when you went into that, you could like kind of like slow time or freeze time, and then like do stuff, queue up actions, and then like go back to shooting and being like blah blah blah. So it's like a weird mix of shooter and semi turn-based, RPG. Also, Tony Boom said Blender Market. Yeah, there you go. There you go. I wanted to make sure you didn't miss that.
I've been looking at this. I've been trying to check this every day, and they had another one that was free one day that I did not grab, and I'm really mad at myself about. But yeah, it was like a UV tool or something like that. So,
oh shit, Anna. So okay, well tell me about your feelings, because I didn't look at it. I completely forgot. I'm sorry about that. I played a little bit of the first Dragon Age, and I thought it was okay. I was kind of into it, but I wasn't. I don't know. I feel ambivalent about it. There were parts that I liked and parts that I didn't. I ended up like accidentally becoming a Reaver on my very first playthrough, so it fundamentally changed everything in the story and like all kinds of weird shit. So yeah, I agree with that. All the Dragon Age games look very different. Like from 1 to 2. I never played 3, but is the new one 3? New one's 3. Anyway, that goes to show how much I played Dragon Age. Yeah, and I want to say like 2. Okay, good. Thank you. 2 was the one with Alistair, I think. There was like a paladin who I thought was super dope, and he ends up being like a disgraced paladin, and that was like really disappointing to me, because I was like, oh, he's not cool and interesting like I thought. He's just kind of a bad guy. And like now I feel bad about like helping the bad guy. So there was stuff like that I didn't care for in Dragon Age. I think the combat was janky in Dragon Age too. Okay, so it was 1. All right, perfect. Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about though, right? With Alistair, where I was like, this guy's dope. He's my homie. And then he's like, no, we should just fucking kill this guy. And I'm like, what, dude? You're a paladin. You can't just kill people. Like, what are you saying? And he's like, he just has this like really weird character turn that was... No, go ahead. Have strong opinions. That's the whole point I was trying to make, is like that's what pulled me out of Dragon Age was just the really weird sudden like story pivots like that were just like, I almost feel like as a storyteller that reminds me of like Martin and like Game of Thrones type shit, where he would like develop a character just to make it have this like really awful turn and make the audience feel really bad about like bonding with that character. So he would either like murder them in a horrible way, or like they would have some dark secret and just be a huge piece of shit. And you're like, what is happening? Why are you ruining the story for me? Like, that's real life. Like, we don't want real life. This is Storyland. I kind of feel the same way about Dragon Age Origins as I do about Martin's writing. That's not to say I didn't enjoy Game of Thrones. I did. But I don't put it on a pedestal. I think I almost stopped watching Game of Thrones with Red Wedding, because I was like, this is unnecessary. This is like ham-fisted and hackneyed writing. He's just doing this to elicit a negative reaction in the audience with zero follow-up. So I imagine him being like, ha 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 ha, I'm writing this horrible scene that's going to traumatize people. Ha 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 ha. Like, he's making those choices. I'm saying this as someone who writes stories, who like tells stories. So when I see him do that, I'm like, dude, this is like, you're just being, you're pulling tricks on the audience. And like, I don't think that's cool. Like, I always felt like it's better to use that power to make people be better people, or to like help them see or relate to a person who's completely different from them. And that's always where I saw the power of storytelling, was bringing people closer together, not dividing us with our stupid ideas and opinions, but like making people just bond over this, like an interesting story, or like change and grow and become healthier. That's what I see the ability being used for in a positive way. DA1 was more RPG and darker. You saved the country. Oh, yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. I remember that now. Yeah, I want to say like the combat in 2 was what made me quit, because the combat was so wacky in those games, and it just never stuck well for me. Is your favorite one the third one? It sounds like the third one was your favorite one, Anna. Also, Tony, what are you doing right now with the Coin Boy?
There's this gap in the Plinko in the glass here that I'm just trying to shore up here.
Gotcha.
So
I got you. Cool.
Not behaving very well for some reason. So I was trying to figure out why.
Okay, so 3 and 2 were your favorites, Anna? Nice. That's awesome. Can you sort of explain why? And if you can't, totally cool. I wanna know, and I appreciate the conversation. I know Boom is more of like a jock gamer, kind of the way I am. Like, I'm pretty sure Boom plays. No, wait, what did you say, Boom? You played StarCraft or something like that? Boom plays like competitive games where there's, the story's like not important. Boom's just out there like wilding, getting that APM up.
Competitive Unreal Engine.
Exactly. That's what Boom plays. Competitive VTuber. There you go. Gaming. I love it. I'm excited for Shadow of the Erd Tree. I'm really into that. I have to like respec my whole guy. I'm gonna go instead of, what was I? I was like Strength Dex Int, which is like a weird hybrid build with a great shield. I'm gonna go into like a Paladin with a mace and do like Faith Strength. I think that'll be more solid, more what I want to go for. So since we're talking about these like narrative driven games, these RPGs, I want to bring up a really weird point, or I guess just an interesting game to talk about. And that's Witcher 3. And I specifically bring up 3 because I have played, I think 1 and 2. I got like 1 or 2 based on a recommendation from a friend. That game was bad. It was not a good game. And I was like, why the fuck do you like this game? It just was not good. So I slept on 3. Even though everyone was like, game of the year, this game is fucking amazing, blah, blah, blah. I didn't play 3 for like 2 years after it came out. So when I got it at like half price. Phenomenal game. I know Tony has strong opinions about it. And I want to say, before we hear what your opinions are, that the beginning of Witcher 3, like the early tutorial area and all that shit, is like 10 to 15 hours, maybe 20 hours long. It is a lot to get through. But once you get through that and the world opens up, you're like, oh my God, this game is massive. I can really do whatever I want. And then that was where it clicked for me. But you had to invest like 10 to 20 hours to get to that point. So I could see if you didn't get that far, you might say, Tony, how do you feel about Witcher 3?
But like the gameplay of do whatever you want is like ride a horse around predetermined roads and spin around in button mashing combat that is really stupid. And like, yeah, there's like cool storyline happening and the graphics are pretty good and the cutscenes are cool and all of that, but just like I really struggled to like play the video game part of it. I did not think it was very fun. I thought the TV show was great. I'm really sad that they got rid of Henry Cavill, but
dude, he quit. They didn't get rid of him.
And there's a lot of back and forth drama about like he quit because they weren't taking the source material seriously, or they got rid of him, or he left because he was going to go do Superman and then Superman didn't happen, and like all this stuff. But yeah,
I heard from him, he was like, I told them to be more faithful to the story. And when they said no, I just walked. But yeah, okay. So the show was really good in some ways. I think that there were problems with the show, but I still very much enjoyed it. And
the more recent season kind of lost me a little bit, for sure.
That's like where
storyline got a little weird. Yeah,
I think that's where Henry Cavill was like, guys, you need to course correct and like fix this because this is not the story. But to your point about combat, like I cannot agree more. That combat is bad, and I'm sorry if you like Witcher 3 combat. I'm going to say something divisive. It reminds me a lot of the Batman Arkham games. The combat, I've had people tell me, is like some of the best shit ever, and they're super excited about it. For me, the reason I don't like it is it's not engaging enough. I feel like I press one button, my character does like 4 or 5 attack animations, and then I'm like waiting very carefully for timing. So it's like driving a car with an automatic transmission versus driving a car with a manual transmission. I want to do gear shifts. I want to press the clutch in. I want to like be a master of this thing and, do all this stuff all at the same time. Right. And I feel like the Batman Arkham games and the Witcher, games are probably not as focused on delivering that like challenging combat mastery experience, and more about making a player feel like they're really powerful and they don't have to do too much work to look powerful and get like this big payoff in their inputs and whatnot. So that's kind of my guess at why they did that. Anyway, if you look past the combat, that was the thing that I did not enjoy about The Witcher, was the combat. I thought it was kind of dumb. Honestly, like it was not super great. But the tracking, like when you're hunting creatures, was pretty fucking cool. Like having to go find, hey, what's up, FICO? Having to go find so they teach you this with the Griffin in the very beginning, right? Like, did you beat the Griffin, Tony?
Yeah, I got through the Griffin, and I remember very specifically getting to like the castle with the like fat king guy, and then there's like some fucked up quest with like a haunted fetus or something. And
yes,
like I remember like getting to that part, being like, fuck this, putting the game down for like 3 years, picking it up, playing through like half of that quest and being like, nope, and then never playing it again.
Oh, that's too bad, because that's like right as you finish that is when the game gets really, really good. But it doesn't matter. It's, if you put it down, put it down. But I'm 100% with you on that. Like the combat was not the reason I played it. I liked the whole, you got to go get the I don't remember what it was called. It was like Bullwort or something like that. You got to go like dive into the lake to find the thing that makes the Griffin come like attack your bait. And then once you've got it in that spot, you like wound it and it keeps it grounded, and then you like take it down. So I thought that was really cool, like, because it's an analog for like actual hunting. You have to track the beast, learn its patterns, like figure out these things to entice it to a place where you can like actually hunt it and then fight it. And that carries on throughout the entire game. Like you do that with like every type of monster. Like there are ghosts. I remember there was this one town I went to where there was a ghost that appeared at noon, and it was this like flaming spirit. And it was like, when it showed up, it just literally killed like 4 or 5 villagers, like immediately, and just started like killing people everywhere. You're like, oh shit, what do I do? But it's a ghost. You have to do special things to make it vulnerable, but you also needed to like show up at the right time of day for it to come out. That was really cool. But that extended also to like the major plot monsters. Also Gwent is crazy fun. And that, I don't know, did you ever get into Gwent at all, Tony?
I definitely played it a little bit, yeah. You know how much I love video game-based card games, but
Tony's not a fan of video card games. Or do you like paper card games at all? I'm just curious.
Not really.
Yeah. So Tony's not a card game player.
I would rather play a card game with cards than in a video game. I'll tell you that. So yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't expect that. Because I feel like
I would say I don't want to play a card game though, but it's just like if I have to play a card game, then I would rather do it not digitally, because that seems stupid to me.
What I like about digital is the cleanup is just turn the program off. And when you play like physical card game, you gotta like stack them back up and put them into a box and like do all this other shit. Like that I don't care for as much. But Gwent was really, really cool. And yeah, that's one of those things where like we were talking about how the Mako was really strange in Mass Effect. That's the truck driving the stupid truck around. Yep. It was really weird. It didn't fit. Gwent, also really weird. Kind of fit. It's more like tertiary content. It doesn't really have anything to do with the game, but it's a really well-made card game.
The old ones, do you know?
I think it was like alluded to in narrative,
Okay.
Like people would be like talking about playing
because
Gwent,
there is a
and
whole
so,
like
they actually made it.
well-written book series behind The Witcher that it's all based off of. So yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the first two did not have Gwent, but it was definitely a part of the game. Like characters like talked about it. It was a mini game called Dice Poker,
and
I guess they made
into,
Gwent
like
for
a
3
Hearthstone type thing, right? Where it was like its own standalone game after Witcher 3. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, Gwent's good. You could literally do that. Like that's the weird thing about Witcher 3 is that like they just put a really good card game in there, and there was good side quest content you could do with the card game. Like you get some like rare equipment or some shit like that by doing the whole quest, Gwent quest line. There are also like really rare Gwent cards you could get. So there was like a whole metagame. You had to like go talk to the certain guy at the certain stage in the story. And if you did that and you like won, you got this really rare card. And then you could use that card to go like beat these other dudes to get some other rare cards. And it's it's funny because it's a fucking TCG in a game that has nothing to do with TCGs, and you're like RPing as a TCG player, which is just strange. TCG, sorry, chat, is trading card game. Might be obvious to some people, but and that's like, Magic the Gathering or Pokemon. You go buy physical cards and you play them. But yeah, there's like a digital TCG and then Polish monster, mythological monster fighting and hunting game,
and
which
I do
is so
always
weird.
like when games have overarching like meta things like that you can choose to engage with or not. Like I always think that's good. So I'm not against that at all. It's more just like
it's not for you. I think
it's like I sit here and like I in my brain can draw like a very direct comparison between like Witcher 3 and like Ocarina of Time. You could argue those games are structurally almost exactly the same game, but for whatever reason I find The Witcher a lot less approachable, maybe because it's so like large and prolific, and
that is daunting, dude.
There's a lot to do, and just again like the interstitial gameplay I just did not find fun or enjoyable.
I get it.
Yeah,
I totally get it. It also Witcher I think also suffers from the affordance issue where you're like, how do I know I'm not making the wrong decision? And you don't. You just fucking don't. It's such a big game that you don't know. Mass Effect has the same issue too. That's also been described with I guess a rhyming phrase. I almost said alliterative, but it's not. A rhyming phrase, that you've probably heard before, analysis paralysis. That's what an affordance issue is. It's when a player is like, I don't understand the actions I have. Carolyn and Owen, what are the cards for? In The Witcher 3, the Gwent cards are like a bar game. So you're running around as like, this crazy Polish dude with like these big ass swords, and you're like chopping monsters and all this stuff and like fighting these mythological creatures, and like that's your job as a Witcher. But when you go to like the taverns in each of the towns, there's usually someone, selling Gwent cards and playing Gwent, and you can just sit down and like do that instead of playing the game, which is really weird. There was an old coworker I had when I was working. I want to say this was at Topgolf. But this guy was like, dude, I played my first 40 hours of Witcher and disengaged entirely from any major plot points and only played and collected Gwent cards. And I was like, are you kidding me? He goes, yes.
I saw that diatribe
literally did that
so many times along, over time after the game came out. They're like, I've played 500 hours of Gwent and I haven't even started the main quest yet.
Yep. So yeah, that's what's cool about it, is that you can just, it's really neat. I love stuff like that in games. But yeah, I think to your point, and I guess also to like Anna's point about hypersexualization of women in video games, I think card games are just not for you, Tony. Inscription being an exception. I appreciate that you actually played all the way through that.
Yep.
But the card game part probably just made it much harder for you, and you're like, bleh, I don't.
Well,
I don't
and
like
it's
this.
like in that case, it's like I don't have a problem with it being a card game because it's like not Slay the Spire. Like Slay the Spire is designed to be like you're gonna play this card game for 1,000 hours and it's gonna be the same thing every time, and you're gonna get better at it, and it's that's all it is. Inscription was a card game as a vehicle to like
to do a bunch of other really crazy stuff.
I'm okay with that. There's a point to that. That's not just playing a card game.
Yeah, that's fair.
Game.
Yeah. Anna, that's a really good point. I think that's a really, really good point. I feel exactly the same way. I understand that there's this, there's a sort of a narrative about inclusivity and diversity in games and like what it means. And there's too many like, cishet white male characters. I don't think that's the case anymore, but I now I fully understand exactly how, you feel saying you love The Witcher. You just don't want to be Geralt. You want to be a badass female Witcher. Valid. Absolutely valid. When I play... Okay, so I'll say this. I really, really, really enjoy the game Control by the studio Remedy. One of the biggest things that takes me out of enjoying that game is the player character Jesse. I cannot relate to Jesse in any way. And I've tried so hard, and I've tried to play it. And I'm really into the whole what is that shit called, Tony, with the fake, creepypasta paranormal thing? Do you remember what that
SCP?
shit is? Wait, say it again.
SCP.
SCP?
Yeah, the can't remember what it stands for.
Cryptid something? But yeah, exactly. Sorry.
The SCP Foundation is... What does it stand for?
Society of Creepypasta. Let's just call it that.
I mean, yeah, sure.
Okay, so chat, for you guys, we're a little, internet lore deep at this point. Creepypasta is this concept that, people posting on internet forums and whatnot and having conversations about things. They will sometimes just post a paragraph of really weird shit that's like the Slender Man is one of the creepypasta origin, or the Rake is another creepypasta origin.
All that stuff,
yeah, Backrooms, where you're trapped in this fractal office building that has no doors and every room looks the same and you can't get out. So anyway, there's an element of that in Control. And I really like creepypasta stuff. It triggers my imagination. I like stories. I think it's really cool. And I was really into all that shit. But then I'm I don't want to be kind of a sassy, hard-nosed noir detective redhead chick named Jessie. It just does not click at all for me. So to Anna's point, I'm going to catch up on this a little bit. Yeah, you didn't want to be Geralt. I totally get that. Makes sense to me. Okay, yeah. So you choose based on when you can put yourselves in the shoes, or put yourself in the shoes of the main, player character, which that's totally valid. You should do that. I definitely select the same way, I think in that regard, that makes me more a fan of silent protagonist, which, I've seen arguments for and against. I think silent protagonist connects to the most people. Case in point, Master Chief versus Dom from Gears. So if you're playing as Dom in Gears, I had a bunch of friends who are women who were in esports, that played at a competitive professional level. That was one of the most frustrating things for them, was being a Gears pro and being cool, I'm going to be this oddly shaped dude with size 28 shoes and super broad shoulders that make no sense, have zero neck and be hella jacked. But why are there no women? There's women in the game. Why can't you just be a woman? Very valid. And this is early days of Gears. This is Gears 1 and 2. This is not Gears 4 or 5. And then I think 6 is the new one. So I'm excited for 6. But yeah, especially if you're playing in a competitive setting, it doesn't fucking matter. It's not a narrative device that you need. The skin is just what the player chooses to represent themselves with. So I think in that situation, there should be more options for like female character choice. You have like a really linear narrative and it's like really directed. I mean, I understand why it would filter you out, Anna. I completely get that. But I think it's important for creators to tell their stories. And, if a game is good enough, I'll go play it and I'll go check it out. Like I said, Control's really hard because I recognize that Control's such a good game. I just cannot attach to that character. I'll throw this one out there. Controversially, I cannot stand Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn, whatever the fuck it's called, with Aloy. I just cannot stand it. And I really dislike the fact that her name was Aloy and the other dude's name was Rost. And it's like Alloy and Rust. And I'm like, this is not that clever, guys. Like, this is very thin soup. So, but yeah, I can never relate to that character either. I'm not, I guess like native, a tribal native, woman with red dreadlocks. Like, that shit ain't me. Even if it was a dude in that circumstance, that would be very hard for me to relate to as well, because I've never lived out in the fucking woods, like, anyway.
So I figured out my problem here. I thought these coins.
Omni's like, wait, what'd you say, Tony?
I thought all these coins were clipping through the edge of this mesh right here, and then I had like a collision issue. So I've been like trying to debug the collision for like the whole time you've been talking, and then I realized that
they're just clipping through the wall over there.
The mesh ends right there, and there's just a big gap. And
my god,
like the top ramp is right, so it fills the whole space, but there's just a gap here. But when you're out here, you can't really tell that. And so that's going through the wall, and I never noticed that, and so it's just more like that the mesh isn't the right size.
Anyways. Yeah, Omni, if you want me to just start like talking shit about Fallout, I'm happy to do that. I will say this. I think no one actually likes Fallout. I think it is a social pressure thing where people go, Fallout's a great game, and some journalists go, Fallout's great. And then everyone goes, oh yeah, Fallout's great. I love that game. But everyone only plays like 3 hours of it and then just closes it and never opens it again. And then they cosplay as like a vault.
I think back in the day, like especially Fallout 3 was very new and interesting and honestly kind of innovative at the time, because I don't even know if that was Xbox 360. That might have been OG Xbox. That's like, it's like sci-fi Morrowind. Like that would be a very compelling sell to like 13-year-old me for sure. And they admittedly did a very good job with the atmosphere and the music and making it feel very like 1950s and stuff like that. But I just think it's kind of become one of those things in this day and age where it's like, I don't know, it's kind of the same with Skyrim and games like that. It's like, I think they're looked upon positively because there was never ever anything like that before. But if you hold them up to kind of modern standards, they're extremely jank and pretty ugly and, have a lot of issues with them and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like Vince's statement that nobody likes Fallout kind of definitely applies to Fallout 4, I think, to some extent. Like, I've never heard people speak as positively about that one as they do about 3 to some extent, and obviously New Vegas being
the widely regarded
poster child of Fallout fandom. And New Vegas was very good, and it was entertaining at the time again, but I feel kind of the same way about it that I do about like Mass Effect, where it just like in 2024, it's a hard sell for me just across the board. And I had the same thing with Starfield. I think Starfield honestly probably would resonate with me in a lot of ways if I could get through the beginning of it. But I have legitimately heard verbatim,
it's a bad game, bro.
Well, no, the statement I hear from people is that it is 12 hours until it starts to get fun. And I'm just like, no fucking chance am I going to do that. Even if it's like the most fun game in the world on the other side, it's like, I'm not doing it. I'm not playing Bethesda chat simulator for 12 hours. Can't.
I literally felt that way about Witcher 3 until I got there. And then I was like, all right, everyone was right. It's clicking now. But dude, I almost put it down probably 2 or 3 times. And like, I almost never picked it back up. But people were like, dude, you got to play it. Like, seriously, just get past. And they'd be like, you're almost there. Just get past that part. And I'd be like, dude, I'm going to get past this part. And this game's going to fucking suck. And I'm just going to be mad that I spent like 20 hours getting there. And then I got past it and I was like, Oh, it doesn't suck. Because you go from like the world is this big, and you're like, oh, okay, I get it, you know, and that feels very, very large.
Yeah.
But the map is like off the screen, and you're like, oh shit, I just spent all that time right here in this one little circle, and there's like 90% of the world to continue to explore, and that popped in my head, and I was like, oh fuck, I get it. I understand.
And I'll say like the Fallout TV show, for example, I did a really good job, obviously, just across the board, but it also, I think, highlighted some of the stuff that is very interesting about Fallout, which is like the world and the lore and the backstory and all of the fucked up stuff that they did to the people in the vaults and all of that. And I never knew almost any of that stuff before watching the show. And then I watched this very long YouTube essay that somebody did that went through every single vault and talked about whatever the fucked up experiment was for it and kind of ranked them all. And that stuff in that lore is so interesting to me, but it just a lot of environmental storytelling in the game that you gotta, you know, kind of figure out for yourself. And Vince and I talk a lot about just like the color palette and the graphics just kind of being like too much at a point. It's like you're just walking around like dead, barren wasteland all the time, and it never mixes it up or changes or anything. And New Vegas is kind of interesting for that because you do ultimately end up in New Vegas, and that's kind of a different type of scenery for a Fallout game that you've never really experienced before. So that was cool. But
I mean, you're not wrong, FICO. I am usually disagree to agree. that is correct. And you know, I see you guys talking about the show. I liked the show. I thought it was really good. I really want to spoil a bunch of shit for you, FICO, but I won't. You're good. I will say
I was going to tell FICO, my mom texted me last night because they've been watching it, and the text message just said, Fallout ending was stupid. I was
like, yo, true.
And Amy responded, she's like, well, they're gonna make another season.
I mean, did your mom say that or your dad?
My mom did.
Oh yeah,
I think it was just because they like kind of like left it hanging and didn't explain a bunch of stuff. But and my parents
I love that. Now I want to talk to your mom about it.
You know, backstory of Fallout whatsoever or anything. So it's funny because I'll tell them, I'm like, you guys should really watch Shogun. You would really like it. And then they're like, we've been watching Fallout. Yeah. I'm like, okay.
That's weird. Yeah, Shogun. Okay, so Fallout is objectively well-made entertainment.
Yep.
There are a lot of writing problems in the show. Specifically Maximus, stupid as fuck. Horrible writing decisions. I can't blame the actor. But yeah,
everybody kind of seemed to feel that way though. Yeah.
Yeah, really poor decisions. They were like, oh, we're going to make it so that he's like sheltered and he just didn't learn stuff because he grew up in this militaristic society. But
I don't remember
then
that
he's
being,
like childlike.
Maybe I'm just like not nerdy enough about the games to remember that. And that actually is a thing in there. But I never remember them talking about like the Brotherhood of Steel Soldiers being like stupid and uneducated. They always kind of seemed like they would not be. But
yeah, they were like war zealots, if that makes sense. So they were uneducated.
They're definitely zealots. Yeah, that's a great way to explain
it. Yeah, or they're like their knowledge was like filtered through the hierarchy. So like the, you know, higher up you were in the Brotherhood, you might be smarter and like be more aware of the state of the world and shit like that. But I think what was really weird was the way they executed on that concept was they made Maximus like developmentally disabled.
Yeah,
he just like his brain don't work, you know, like just like you said, FICO, that quote, which I'm not going to say out loud, but like, yeah, he says that like very randomly, and you're just like, what the fuck? This is like cringe ass scene. Like, why did you write it that way? So anyway, that's my beef with it. And I think Omni also makes another really good point. I really like the vibrant colors in the show too, which sounds like it's a contrast from the game. The games are brown. They're shades of fucking brown. And that pulls me out so badly. Yep. And the other thing are aesthetics. Design choices that they made to convey a never-ending state of entropy where nothing is new and cool looking. It's all mid-century modern, but like rusty and busted. So you're like, cool, I'm a survivor and my shirt is ripped and I'm grimy, but I've made some progress and I upgraded my shit. And you're like, oh, I got some new like armor. And your new armor is like a piece of chain link fence and some fucking like a half a football that you found and like chopped up and strapped to your shoulder. And I'm like, this is the dumbest shit ever. I look more corny now than if I was just walking around with a ripped t-shirt. So anyway, that's what
I have one more rant I can go on about the games too. That I always
go on, bro. Yeah, rant away.
So I have played Fallout 3. I've beat Fallout 3. I've beat New Vegas. Those games have kind of a power curve and a gameplay loop where for the first 20 to 30 hours of the game, you're trying to get power armor. Like you're playing Fallout, you're like, I want the fucking power armor. It's on the cover of the game. It's going to be OP as hell. I'm going to be able to beat everything when I have it. So in Fallout 3 in New Vegas, they do a really good job of making it pretty hard to get to, and it takes a long time. But then when you get it, you have it, and you can make some build choices around like going heavy armor and basically just wearing power armor from then on. And that's fine. In Fallout 4, they give you the power armor within 5 hours. But they have a system where you have to have a fuel cell to run it, and the fuel cell will run out and force you to just like drop your power armor somewhere until you can find a new fuel cell, which is like maybe an interesting gameplay design choice. But like I remember a lot of people feeling pretty bummed about that when the game came out, and I agree with them because I kind of always thought that Vince and I talk about this a lot, but there's like this game design choice that some games can make where like they just kind of dangle something in front of you for a long time, and then the payoff when you finally get to it is just like one of the greatest things in gaming. And then from there, you're just like, I'm an unstoppable killing machine. God, this is sick.
Yep.
And the first 2 games did that really well, and then they kind of like tried to do something different with it in 4 and make it so that you can't be OP all the time with the power armor. And I kind of get it, but at the same time, like it really just takes away that, like, you know, you're playing Super Metroid and you see that like door that you can't open in the very first room in the game, and you end up running by it like 20 times as you're running around and getting more powerful, and then eventually you finally find that thing that can open that door, and you're like, oh my god, yes. And you go all the way back to the very first room and you finally get to open the door and see what's inside of there. Like that's the best moment in gaming in my opinion, and they kind of took that away in Fallout 4.
Yeah, I think they started with the right idea, but they just executed poorly on it. To give you that much power and then like take it away, and then it becomes this ambiguous thing, and you're like, I don't know when I'm ever gonna get that back. Because I felt the same way about 4. I was like, oh sick, finally I can use one of the cooler looking things in the game. By the way, in the like before Fallout was an RPG, like the power armor was like a normal thing. Like in the tactics games, power armor was normal. You just got it from like day one, and it was cool. I don't know why the fuck the Bethesda version was like, no, you can't really have this, or this is purely end game, but we'll show it to you. It'll be on the cover of every fucking game, and you can never use it. Like that annoys me to no end. So I don't know. I feel kind of the same way about like Bethesda games in general. They just be like that. And I want to like them because so many people are like, this game is amazing. It changed my life. Oh my God, it's my favorite game. And I'm like, why? Why is this your favorite game? Like, I just do not get it. Since we're talking about television shows, chat, if you guys have not, go watch The Expanse. It's the best sci-fi you can watch on TV, and it has been for a long time.
FICO, watch The Expanse. I keep telling him.
FICO's not going to. FICO only likes to say
downloaded it onto Jellyfin. I see it on there.
Yeah, see soon TM. Nah, dude, he likes to just go, oh yeah, okay, and then he just doesn't do it, and then he just says things at us.
No, see, I hounded him to watch Schitt's Creek, and then he did it.
Oh,
or no, it was Ted Lasso. Sorry, it was Ted Lasso, and then he did it.
We did too, man.
I was right. So yeah,
we did too. It's awesome till the last season where they rushed it.
They didn't rush
The
it.
Expanse?
No, I don't know. That is exactly what happens in the books. They just stopped at the end of the 6th book.
Yes. I liked it, Omni.
Yeah.
I thought it was still very well constructed.
No, I did not hound you to watch Schitt's Creek. I meant Ted Lasso. I'm sorry. I've been watching Schitt's Creek, so that was on my brain. But yeah.
Oh, what's up, Photon? Oh yeah, there we go. We got Photon in here saying hell yes, triple plus The Expanse. Changes between the books to show. So I'm reading the okay. Photon, interesting you say that, because I am reading the books now for the first time, but I felt the same way. And I want to say it was the actress. I don't know if it was the director. It could very well have been the director. But Naomi was so fucking weak, and I'm like, how is this woman weak? Everything about her backstory, everything about who she is, and she just fucking whinges constantly. Like, what is this? It makes no sense.
We'll have to talk about this more when you get to the end, because I can think of so many examples through the entire story. But like, I feel like Naomi's kind of a bitch in the books too. Like, I don't know.
Okay.
Her character just makes a lot of like
head-ass decisions.
Yeah, they're very emotionally driven, and they're kind of reckless, and she does end up like saving the day a lot and kind of ultimately pulling it off. But just like, I don't know, there's so many times where she just like fucking leaves and just like doesn't tell anybody, and then is gone for like a really long time, like doing stuff, and like she clearly could use help from people, but she's like worried about getting them hurt, so she doesn't tell them. And it just like, it always comes across as like really bad decision making to me.
Yeah, I agree. Omni, that's the thing. Expanse didn't get momentum. That's why it got canceled.
Yeah.
They were just like,
Expanse was on Sci-Fi, and it got canceled after season 3. And then Jeff Bezos was a huge fan, and he literally bought the show just so they could keep making it, because he wanted to keep seeing it. And yeah, they got it up through 6. And again, like the 6th season has a mention of the Laconia stuff that happens after the 5th book in the book series, which would have been very, very cool to see in the show, but they would have had to make like 5 more seasons to do it. And
I love the random Jeff Bezos hate in chat. Fucking Jeff. Jeff should have finished it.
Like one of the like best things Jeff Bezos has ever done is he saved The Expanse for 3 seasons. So
yeah, fuck a Blue Origin. He made it. He made it so that we got The Expanse.
And if you go watch the first seasons of The Expanse, like it was being made for TV by the Sci-Fi Channel, and you can really see a lot of the like kind of lower budget jank in some of those early seasons. And when you get to the end, they have like Marvel tier CG space fights and like crazy shit, and you know, it is very well done the whole way through. I really wish they could have done the end of the books, but they did a good job with what they did.
I just realized why Omni is frustrated. He doesn't fucking read books, dude.
Oh yeah, see, Omni, if you knew what happens in the books after the show, like
you need to go read some books, homie.
Yeah, Vince is going through it right now, but like the show literally did a perfect job on all of the content that it covered. They added the novellas in that go between the stories so that you have more of the understanding of what's going on. And like, I ended up reading the novellas after all the books, and then I ended up being like, oh, I've actually seen like 9 out of 10 of these things because they put them into the show. It's very cool.
Oh, Photon, it's funny that you say that, because my wife has the Jane knit cap, like literally the same one, the like yellow and orange one. It's amazing. It's adorable when she wears it, but yeah, it's fucking sick. She loves that show, and for what it's worth, I thought it was really good too. I like the way the show ended, and then Serenity happened. Like, I watched Serenity before I watched the show, and I think they tie really well together. Didn't Whedon get canceled? I feel like Whedon did some shit.
No, I feel like he just like made some bad movies.
Jane's a dude. Yeah. You don't understand Firefly? What do you mean? Oh, goddamn, Omni. You were so close to like awesome growth. Read some books. Appreciate good stories, bro.
So I've never seen all of Firefly. I want to say we probably watched maybe 2 episodes, and that's all I've actually seen. And yeah,
I don't think it's
up so I don't understand the obsession that a lot of people have with it just because I haven't seen it. It seemed okay when I was watching it. It wasn't like, oh my god, I have to finish this.
But Great Wife out of 10 is correct. Yes, he was definitely not like that. You know, that Jane got canceled for sure. Like, that dude is donezo. He hasn't done anything for a long time. And I agree, actually, Omni. If you can't read books because for whatever reason, maybe you have dyslexia, or, you know, like it's just difficult for you and not enjoyable.
ADHD.
Totally get it. you should try Audible. I'm really lucky that just as I grew up, like books were one of the things my mom never said no to. So I'd be like, I want toys, I want candy, blah blah blah, and she'd be like, nope, 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 and she'd be like, listen, if you just shut the fuck up, I'll buy you any books that you want. And I was like, oh, books, fine. I'm gonna buy a bunch of books then. And so I went and like bought books to Spider and then read them, and I was like, oh, this is great. And then now reading is like it's something I've done most of my life just as a hobby. Read hella different books. I bullied FICO into reading historical nonfiction. I don't even know if he's actually reading it, but we'll see. So terrible, I think. I mean, no, I don't think so, FICO. I would not have that strong of an opinion about an actor. I think acting is kind of a lame ass job anyway. Blah blah blah. Okay, where are we? Oh, so the old Western thing is just aesthetics, Omni. That was like they were really going for like the whole space cowboy thing. Jaden Smith. Bro, don't have the Smiths come for us. Okay, so spaghetti Western. I'm just going to answer this because I know it. There was a huge fondness for Western films in Italy. And they were making, back in the day, in like 50s and 60s or some shit like that, they were making Western films that were really bad, but they understood the formula. So Hollywood influenced an entire movement of Italian films that are Westerns, which is really weird. So it's a Western that's not made by Americans, but it's about the American West. So if that helps, that's what it really means. Yeah, it didn't work, Tony. Oh, do we have coins though? Do you want me to drop some?
Well, I mean, it wouldn't have worked until I just restarted it, but I put the cheap coins on. I sent a message about it earlier if anybody saw. So you guys are free to do it whenever you want to. It'll just do like 10 coins for 10 points. I'm starting and stopping the coin pusher a lot, so I don't want to make you guys spend real points on anything because it's not really keeping track right now. So awesome. Just know that. But I do need to step away for 1 second anyway. So I'll just
no worries, bro. Dragon Age books. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that they had books for Dragon Age. I think right now. So I'm listening to, I do audiobooks and I read. I read paper and Kindle. Reading is like one of the biggest things that I do. It's super important. The historical nonfiction that I convinced FICO to get into, highly recommend to everyone in chat. It's called Empire of the Summer Moon. It is about the rise and fall of the Comanche Nation, about a 300-year period of the American, West, Central West, the Great Plains, in North America. Really, really fucking cool. So what I'm reading right now is, since I finished that, I'm reading The Expanse. Just hopping into that. I've never read the series. My audiobooks are by Tad Williams. And I'm going through the Memory, Sorrow, Thorn trilogy again. 20 books in a comic series. Okay, that's cool. I can also say, like, I was talking to Tony about this. It was funny. People will be like, yo, man, you should read this book. It changed my life. And the book ends up being like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or like some Tony Robbins shit. And it's like a motivational book. And it's, some grind set type trash that won't really change your life. You can do that. But when I say you should read this book, it'll change your life, it's like hard sci-fi written by a Chinese author, which you should. And it's called Three Body Problem. So if you have not read Three Body, it is fucking amazing. The Three Body books introduce something called Dark Forest Theory, which is a solve for the Fermi paradox. I've talked about it before on stream, but I just found that incredibly fascinating. The Fermi paradox is that statistically it is improbable or nearly impossible that life does not exist on our planet. But the paradox is, if statistically the universe is so large and life is so prolific, why have we not encountered extraterrestrial species yet, or found evidence of life on another planet? So that is the paradox. It is, why is it hiding? Why haven't we seen it? Why are we the only life that we know of? And, you know, FICO's trying to take credit for that joke, Tony, where I said the thing about books. It's like, you know, this book will change your life, and someone gives you like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I'm like, this book will change your life, and it's hard sci-fi by a Chinese author. So FICO goes, I made that joke. You didn't make that joke. That was Tony. I remember it. But you might have repeated the joke. It's totally fine. Yeah, so books are good. Omni, like, seriously, you should read more books. I know it's tough, but it's so good for you. It changes the way your brain works and shit. It makes you smarter. Yeah, it makes, like, as I think about this, when a human being grows up and they only speak one language and their brain develops and they've learned one language, they begin to think a certain way. There are ways that thoughts get structured based on the language you speak natively. If you speak many languages, you have a much more broad style of thinking and ability to think in very different ways. So that being said, books help influence that. Books will help you learn to think in different ways. Same with video games. Video games, books, I think stories are really important too. But yeah, just, I guess that's the point, is like, stuff that exposes you to new ideas are really, really good. If we want to talk about some banned books, we could do that. And I think one of the most interesting banned books that stuck with me that I read in high school, in like summer school or some shit like that. Yes, I went to summer school. But it was Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. Top 10 list of most banned books in the world. It's banned in conservative enclaves and, you know, societies or whatever. Conservative groups ban it because it has a concept of like sexual freedom and just, you know, being loose with all of that, because that's how it works in the utopia. It's banned by more liberal enclaves or progressive enclaves because of its depiction of Aboriginal or Native peoples and referring to them as savages. So it's interesting. If every extreme ideology is banning a book, it's probably a good idea to check it out. It's not necessarily a feel-good story, but I think when you consider when it was written, it is wild. It's the basis for Gattaca, which is a pretty cool movie about eugenics and government-controlled like jobs and shit like that. But yeah, that's literally, Gattaca is Brave New World. If you've ever seen The Island, which came out, I think, much later, but it was with Leonardo DiCaprio. That's another Aldous Huxley book. It is the... So
are you talking about Shutter Island or The Island?
The Island.
So the island where the rich people have clones of themselves that they harvest organs from?
Yep.
Okay. It's not Leo, though. It's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Thank you. Ewan McGregor. Not Leo.
Leo's in Shutter Island.
Yes. My bad. So the... what's interesting is that Brave New World is the dystopia, and The Island is the utopia. It's the positive take on all the bad shit. So yeah, it's really good stuff. That's weird that you would watch Gattaca at like an all boys Catholic school, because that's very much
weird
against.
That you went to an all boys Catholic school. I never knew that.
That is actually pretty weird. But yeah, that's it's like not. It's subversive to Catholic ideology. Like, it does not make sense that you would have seen that in a... I mean, did they give you like the Jesus edit or something like that, where they like took out all the spicy bits and you're like, this movie doesn't make any sense? Yeah, I know, right? Like, what the fuck, bro? Anyway, Brave New World. Really, 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 really good book. I'm going to look up when it was written so I don't say the wrong thing, but that blew my mind, finding out when Aldous Huxley wrote the book. 1932 was the first publication, and it deals with like stuff that we are experiencing now, 100 years later. Like, society followed the path of Brave New World, which is really disappointing. But anyway, that's how it goes. Another interesting book or like concept. You don't necessarily need to read the book. It's really big. I have it over here on my shelf somewhere. but it is called The Singularity is Near, and it's by Ray Kurzweil, the guy who made the synthesizer. He's an electrical engineer and futurist. But yeah, he's a very smart dude. And the concept of the singularity is that humanity is reaching an inflection point where our inventions are taking over biology, and our inventions are evolving faster than our biology does. But there will be a point at which the species ceases to be human and becomes a new species because of our technology. I think you can see that most in Gen Z and Gen Alpha, you know, as people say, the iPad kids, right? Like, they're just built different, you know, like the brains function differently, for better or for worse. There's dramatic changes in you know, between generations. If you look at like the baby boomers to Gen Alpha and compare all of them together, bro, I said Gen Alpha was iPad kids. Go ahead and rewind. So yeah, but if you have this like broad spectrum, you can see the progression in the micro generations, which is like super crazy. It happened really fast. We don't know what the repercussions of it are, but I feel like the repercussions are probably along the lines of Kurzweil's vision of the future, which is the singularity. We're going to become something new and different. Especially when you think about like Neuralink and AI tools and stuff like that. Like, imagine you had an AI tool that helped you like think faster and be smarter, and it just augments you, and we're suddenly like baseline intelligence for everyone is much higher. That sounds really cool to me. We're like going towards Star Trek, you know. I don't really care about headlines about Neuralink. I know that someone's working on it, and I know that there was a dude like, yeah, Boom wants to think faster. I believe that. Boom, imagine how much VTuber shit you could make.
Kind of looking like it kind of works. I mean, I'm very skeptical of it, but like they showed some stuff that I was like, wow, it's very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the last stuff that I saw. Multi-threaded thinking. Exactly. So there was a time when Boom, back in the day, I played a shitload of that's a really stupid title, FICO, or a, you know, like story article title or anything. I wouldn't say that's news about Neuralink. I would say that is probably a hit piece against, you know, any Musk company trying to discredit it and make them look silly. So okay. Wait, what was I saying? Okay, so yeah, multi-threaded thinking. What I think is really interesting about that, Boom, is back in the day, I played a ton of World of Warcraft, and my best friend at the same time was like, yo, dude, have you ever tried multi-boxing, in which you play multiple copies of the game at the same time, but you get a tool that helps you do it, like a keystroke replication or something like that. So you hit Q to, you know, or 1 to use your skill in the skill bar on number 1. So like, say it's Shadow Bolt because you play a Warlock. So you'll cast Shadow Bolt. When you're multi-boxing, you have multiple instances of the game open, and you're controlling multiple characters at the same time. You hit that 1 button, and all of your characters cast Shadow Bolt at the same target, right? So I played without a keystroke replication software because technically that was against TOS. It was, you know, you could get banned for doing that, and Blizzard took kind of like a softer stance on it because not a lot of multi-boxers were actually like scamming or botting or doing anything weird, which was the purpose of that ban. So instead of taking the risk, I chose to use Alt-Tab, and I did not replicate my keystrokes. I literally just pressed every button twice. I did this for like 3 years every day for like, you know, 12 hours a day or whatever the fuck WoW degeneracy did back in the day. And it literally rewired my brain in a way that now I can't focus on shit without a second thing for my subconscious to latch onto. So what I mean is I need the television on, even if I'm not watching it, because my brain can go, I'm hearing this and processing this, and I can do something else. So I have this space now where like my brain is conditioned to like look for a bunch of shit. So it's almost like I gave myself ADHD in a way. It's really weird. And typically I have like hyperfixation issues, which I guess can also be related to ADHD, but that I just thought that was really, really interesting because like my brain is literally different from doing that. I would do everything twice, to start with. And then I remembered I was able to start thinking about like, on character 1, I'm doing this. On character 2, I'm doing this. And I would have these like completely separate trains of thought with how I was controlling my characters. And it was just wild. It was a very strange place to be. It was not easy, very, very hard. I had to remap all of my keybinds so that they were easy for me to hit because I couldn't click on anything because I had to use pure keyboard control to do all that. But, oh, bro, I'm a real gamer. Like, make no mistake. I was gaming. My favorite thing to do, there was a one point where one of my warlocks was able to get into Blackwing Lair with my normal guild, but one of my other warlocks was not. They were like, we're not giving you double loot, dude. It's not going to happen. And I'm like, man, y'all are fucking stupid. I am playing, like, I'm one human being, but I'm taking up 2 raid slots, and I'm just as effective, if not more effective, than some of these other members of our guild. Anyway, I got one warlock in Blackwing Lair. My other one couldn't go. So I did a pickup raid group for Molten Core, and I ran the raid on one warlock, and I wasn't in chat for Blackwing Lair. So I was like text chat for Blackwing Lair on my other warlock. So I was in Blackwing Lair and running an entire Molten Core raid, and we cleared like up through Gar or something like that. It was pretty wild. And we did like Chromagus to Nefarian, I want to say, in the Blackwing Lair raid. We went like suppression through Chromagus and all that stuff. Anyway, guys, I'm not kidding when I say, oh, I have a poster of Thrall actually on this wall right in front of me from World of Warcraft. So WoW was a big thing for me. Let's talk about something else, because I don't think anyone cares about stupid fucking WoW conversation. Tony, what spaghetti you into right now?
A couple different things. So it was breaking the node server every time I would drop a coin. So I tried to patch that up. I think there's probably a little bit more fixing that needs to be happening on like the Twitch integration stuff on the back end here, but it does seem to have resolved itself. One of the main things that kind of started all of this was that I've been working on this new glass system that plays well with the neighbor grid stuff in the event that we do keep pushing it that way. And it does this thing here where we use good old owner no see so that we don't see that opaque piece of material. But anyways, that kind of created a lot of the initial problems here where I needed to rework how long the plinko pegs were so that they will, sit between this wall and this front wall. We had to fix the gap that had appeared here. These displays were, ending up inside the wall, so I had to push them out a bit. And now I'm just kind of looking at like these wedges right here are not thick enough, so the coins are ending up between them and the glass right now, so I need to thicken those guys up. And then there's like a weird wedge right here that I'm not sure where that's coming from, so it's kind of the things I'm focusing on at the moment. And
did we talk about on stream the issues in neighbor grid? I feel like last time we were just like, these things are twirling weird. But yeah, off stream, you figured that shit out,
we kind of
right?
talked about it a little bit, so I can jump over to that real quick if we go here.
Yeah, I don't know that you need to change, but I was just suggesting in case you wanted to talk about it. But like,
no, it's all right because I wasn't doing anything too important. But
okay, cool.
The idea that we were hoping to do here was to replace the coins that were spawning in the other one with these neighbor grid particles, because they're physics particles and they're a lot more performance, and we can have a lot more of them on screen before the GPU starts really taking a hit. But something that I didn't really know kind of coming into the exercise that we were doing was that the particles kind of they're defined as points in space, and then you can give them volume and dimension, but for the most part they're basically spheres because it's just kind of like a radius off of a point in space. And so they work really well, and they're kind of like these like playpen ball shapes like this, but we tried to make them coins, and they effectively just kind of look like a coin but still behave like they're a ball. And so that was one of the things that we ran into, again, that I wasn't necessarily familiar with before we did that. So the decision that we had kind of talked about last week was whether or not we want to try to kind of develop a coin pusher style thing with the sphere setup like this, or maybe just potentially avoid using the particle system and going back to the coins. And so I don't think we've really made that decision just yet, but that was one of the things that we had talked about. And so the glass stuff that I was talking about was, again, because any transparent material, these particles would not see. They would just go through it like it wasn't there. And so I was talking to game dev Micah, and he suggested that I tried to do some form basically of like having an opaque thing that the camera can't see, and that should solve the problem. And it actually did. And so one of the things I have kind of been messing around with on the side here is, I probably broke this now, but just making like glass tubes that the particles can go inside of. And so it looks like that. And again, this is what happens when I don't have the opaque material in there with kind of the camera trick set up on it. And I completely broke it at the beginning when I was fixing the other glass, so I'm not going to work on it right now. But that's kind of initially what ended up getting us here. And now just been having some like crashing problems with the server behind this and stuff over the last few weeks. So have been kind of just trying to get all of this cleaned up.
I'm just gonna risk it and say Stream PC has been stable, and it crashed like 4 times this morning. So he's like, "Dude, don't talk about Stream PC."
Yeah, legitimately 5 minutes before the stream, I use the stream computer for like personal stuff all day, every day. Like I just like use it to watch TV and stuff, and it's totally fine. And then sure enough, like 5 minutes before the stream, I'm just getting it ready, and it starts blue screening, and it blue screened like 6 times, and then all of a sudden it just stopped, and the whole stream has been stable. I was so sure we were going to get like 5 minutes into the stream and it was going to go down, and it didn't. So cool.
FICO was asking, what is cube steak? Did you say cube steak? I didn't hear that.
I mean, like cube, like steak cut into cubes.
I don't know what he thought he heard. Bro, you got steak on the brain?
Like you can buy a cubed steak at the grocery store.
Did you think tube steak? Is that what you meant? Because that's something entirely different. I'm pretty sure you're into tube steak.
Oh. It's just steak that has been cut into cubes. That's all.
Hey, get out of here, bro.
Or like soup, stew, that type of thing.
You're saying nonsense. I don't believe any of the things you're saying. So go read some books so that you don't start talking about cube steak as a non sequitur in chat. I can recommend some. The Memory, Sorrow, Thorn trilogy that I mentioned. I often don't read books more than once because I just they just stick, and like as I start reading the book again, I'm actually kind of suffering with this or suffering through this by this whatever. As I read the expansion, I'm like reading lines, and like the show is replaying in my head, and I'm like, this kind of sucks a little bit because like I know what's happening. It's not as exciting to me. Happens every time I read a book a second time. So the exception, there's 3 exceptions here. Tad Williams, I really, really love his writing. Oh, absolutely, Anna. No, absolutely. Yes. Will you post about it in Discord so I don't forget, and I will set that up immediately after stream. Just be like, tag me and be like, hey Viper, don't forget, like make a book channel. So Tad Williams, there are 2 series I've read of his, sci-fi and fantasy. I'm currently listening to his fantasy series on audiobook. I own them all and have read them in paperback, but it's really interesting. I think it's really cool. I like his writing style. It's about like 5,000 pages of a trilogy. The first book is like 600 pages. The second book is like 800 pages, and then book 3 is 2 like 750 page books. So that's just how Tad Williams do. He just gets wild and starts like making crazy ass, like he doesn't know how to end his stories. And I love that because I always feel this like sense of loss when I finish a story because I'm like, that's the end of it, and I know there's nothing else. It took me a very long time to appreciate that. Anyway, Tad Williams, Memory, Sorrow, Thorn, that's the fantasy series. The sci-fi series that he's done that I've also listened to again on audiobook it's called Otherland. Really, really cool shit. Very into that. I don't want to describe anything about it. And then the third series that I've literally read more than once is the Cold Fire trilogy by C.S. Friedman. I would say that's a cross between sci-fi fantasy and just, I've never read anything like the Cold Fire trilogy. Not only is it very well written, it's like this really cool mix of magic and science. So there's basically like a sci-fi explanation in the past for why magic exists. and then the people who exist in the story are just, 12 generations later, and they don't know why it exists because that stuff is lost to them. But I just thought that was really cool. So I've read the Coldfire trilogy. That's not super long. Those are only about 300 to 400 pages per book, and it's a true trilogy. There's only 3 books. Really fucking good. Very cool. I love the character development in that. Yeah, it's just awesome. And yeah, I think those are the 3 exceptions. Those are the books that I've read more than once, or listened to more than once. Also, really love Neil Gaiman. Pretty much anything he does. But I would say, hey, Dr. Elliott, can't buy a game that uses electric wires? Wait, what do you mean? I'm confused. Are you talking about what we're making right now? Anyway, I appreciate you chatting. So, I was talking about books. C.S. Friedman Coldfire Trilogy, super good. That was the, that's the other series that I've just read more than once. Okay, that's cool. We're not making this game with it. This isn't a game, actually, either. But I appreciate that information. This is something that we made as a Twitch integrated Dealy Bob. I don't know what you call it. But yeah, it's integrated with Twitch channel points. So you can use your channel points to, I didn't even know it was a joke. This is the first time you're chatting. I don't know you. So I have no idea what you're saying or what you're talking about, but it's all good. Thank you for coming through. Thank you for hanging out. I was assuming you were talking about the Electric Wires plugin. So, yeah, I don't know. Because we do, or no, it's Electric Nodes is the one. So I just literally don't know what you're talking about because I've never seen you chat. And FICO's trying to get your attention, Tony. Don't give it to him. Keep doing what you're doing. Don't look. Don't look. You're fine. But yeah, so where was I going? I was still talking about books. Those 3 are super good. Empire of the Summer Moon was what I recently read. FICO claims to be reading that. I'm pretty sure he's just lying and placating me, but that's all good because he hasn't told me anything about it. Yeah, Electric Node stock spaghetti. Boom knows. Boom absolutely knows. The opposite.
Oh, that reminds me. I've been all about this electronic nodes thing here. I always forget to turn it on, but the ribbon and the bubbles.
Ribbon and ooh, yo.
Yeah, so like now, if I need to like see what connects to this, if I click on it, that one does. I gotta get it set up for the other things too. But yeah, very helpful to like kind of follow where things are connecting to something. And I always forget to turn it on, and then I remember. It's one of those things where like every time you update the engine version, all of this stuff kind of gets reset. There's probably something I can do to prevent that, but haven't yet. And then I will tend to like forget to set it back up afterwards. So
thank you, Anna. I appreciate that. Neil Gaiman stuff, I would say don't audiobook, because one of the joys of reading Neil Gaiman is how he puts words together. Like basically every sentence is poetry, and it's just like really well constructed. And I think you lose all of that. There's like when he writes, he's got like I am pretty sure he writes with like cadence in mind, like how the words go into your brain and like how you feel them. So I will say that Neil Gaiman's not super great on setting or descriptors. He tends to leave a lot of information out, and that's one of the things I like about Tad Williams is he like over describes things, and you get a really strong mental image of like everything happening in Tad Williams books. Oh yeah, what's the quote? I want to know because Neil Gaiman is fantastic. The last thing that I listened to for Neil Gaiman's was Norse mythology, and it's just him reading like translations of the Poetic Edda, which I thought was really fucking cool. In case chat you don't know what I'm saying, the Poetic Edda is what all of Norse mythology is based on. That's literally what it's called. It's just the Poetic Edda. It's like these cultural artifacts from Vikings about their gods and all that. So if you've heard of, Thor and Odin and all that, that's what the Poetic Edda is. But yeah, it's super neat. Nice. Sandman is great. Did you watch that show, Anna? I really liked the show. I thought it was excellent.
It's kind of fucked up.
What, the quote?
No, the show. There's yes. Like the like serial killers convention and like all that stuff. I didn't watch the whole thing. Amy was watching it, and I kept like tuning in and out. But I just remember seeing a couple things. And was like, damn, this is like kind of fucked up.
The show's super fucked up. I really liked The Watchmen too, both the graphic novel and the movie. And I understand why the movie ended. So the ending in the graphic novel is different than the ending in the movie, but it's because like it was the ending in the graphic novel was kind of silly because technology was just different back then. But the ending in the movie made a lot more sense. It's very similar, but they just did away with like I want to say in the graphic novel, there's like a giant mechanical squid that's covered in canvas, and that somehow tricked everyone into thinking aliens were attacking or some shit like that. So they just completely changed that in the movie because it just didn't make any sense for like modern society. People would be like, mechanical fucking squid, bro? Like that's not.
So there was like a Scooby-Doo explanation at the end.
Yeah.
But Dr. Manhattan exists.
Yes. So yes and no, because Ozymandias was attempting to make everyone think that the Watchmen, like that society needed them, and so he was he manufactured this threat of like alien attack. In the movie, I want to say he did like a nuclear threat or something like that, or like blew up a city or something like that, which makes a lot more sense. But in the graphic novel, it was like a giant squid creature made out of like, and someone like attacked it with a bat and like broke it, and that's how they knew like that. It was like all this revelation. It was really dumb. Like I was like, oh, this is soft. Like you guys, how did you end that way? And then I realized like it was written in like the 70s or some shit like that. I'm like, oh yeah, because they just didn't have technology. They didn't understand, so they could be tricked by a squid made of a mechanical squid with canvas being dangled from a blimp, and they were like, holy shit, aliens. Where are we? Do you want to wrap this thing up?
I'll put the links in the chat. Please join the Discord if you haven't. Please subscribe on YouTube if you haven't. And we'll be back tomorrow, probably with some Abiotic Factor, maybe some Elden Ring, whatever you guys want. Let us know.
Hell yeah. And thank you everyone for hanging out. Thank you everyone for chatting. Even you, Dr. Elliot, no idea who you are, don't know your sense of humor. You come in, say a weird ass joke, and I don't even know you're joking, but I appreciate you being here. I hope you stayed after the yikes LOL GL, but I assume that was a, kick rocks loser. So cool. Thanks for stopping by, and thanks for fucking off. So awesome. But yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll be playing some games, doing the same thing. Yeah. And Elden Ring, Abiotic Factor. If you guys want to play with us, please holler. If you still like chilling, hang out and chill. We love you guys. And you guys, your support is fantastic and amazing. And thank you for hanging out. I don't have any more words, Tony. Yeah. Bye.